Welcome to Ask Your Academic. Today's session will cover the MSc Biomedical Sciences and the MRes Biomedical Sciences, and our panel here are joining us today to answer all the questions you have about your programmes. If you've got any questions that are around funding, accommodation, things like that, I'll pop some helpful links into the chat box for you. And we've also got our online postgraduate event coming up on the 7th of May. So that'd be a really good place to go because there'll be sort of standalone sessions running there too. We are recording this session as well, so don't panic. There'll be a lot of information shared. You will have the recording in the next few days to go back and watch anything you've missed. So I think the best place to start is to get our panel to introduce themselves. So Elaine, would you like to kick off?
Yeah, I'm Dr. Elaine Huston, Elaine to everyone here. And I'm one of the programme leads for the MSc and MRes Biomedical Sciences. I tend to lead on the MRes, but we all kind of muck in across the board, really. Emanuele, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi. Yeah, sure. I'm Dr. Emanuele Conte. I'm help with the coordination of these masters, and I teach in a couple of courses as well.
Perfect. And could you tell us a wee bit about both the programmes? So it's the same name, but they have obviously got an MRes and an MSc. Can you tell us how they differ?
Yeah, so they run kind of together and then in parallel. So our programmes, both programmes are split into 180 credits, and there's 60 credits in each of the semesters. So it runs over 3 semesters. And in the first semester, all our students are together, and that's our kind of core taught component of the programme. And that's split into 3 core courses. So we have I'll tell you a little bit about the courses as we go as well, just to give you some background information as well. So we've got the higher skills in biomedical sciences, and this is a course that I've run, and it's basically a lab-based course. So you'll be introduced to lots of molecular techniques such as cloning, transformation, PCR, qPCR, handling RNA, and some protein visualization techniques as well. So it's essentially a lab-based course, but that's not really our main aim within the course is to get you to understand those techniques and how to use them best. So we'll really probe your using, so you know what all the reagents are for, how you could change them, how you can troubleshoot through lab-based techniques, or if you're doing research projects, and then how you can critically analyze your results and interpret them, and also, of course, write them up as well. So one of our other main courses, which is run by Professor Joanna Wilson, is Molecular Genetics of Disease. And this really looks at up-to-date information on human disease, health issues, and how they might be investigated by using molecular genetic and cellular techniques. So in this course, you'll really dig down into the literature and kind of try and understand more about the molecular genetic and cellular aspects of human disease, and also you'll explore some information databases in there as well. You'll have lectures in this, and you'll also have lots of group work. So you might meet in groups and do presentations to the rest of the cohort, or posters, or just discussion groups. So every week you'll be doing some sort of activity within that, excuse me. We also have presentation skills, which Emanuele is involved in running, so I'm going to hand that over to him.
Yeah. The course of presentation skills is, as the name says, one opportunity for you to learn how to present scientific data, how to talk as a scientist, if you like. So how to engage the audience, how to present scientific data from a journal, properly understand it, and put it in the right format so that it becomes something that the audience can understand and metabolize and engage while you're talking. So we will go through that. You will have some examples. There will be some formative assessments, which are presentations, once again, based on a paper that kind of reflect what's going to happen in the final assessment. So you will have the chance to try for the first time in front of an audience, and then again for your assessment. So that's pretty much it.
And after the first semester, then the 2 programs diverge. So the MSc students then go into a number of optional courses, and these are courses that are offered from right across the College of Medical, Veterinary and Life Sciences, from the different schools within that. So you'll have a vast array of different courses to choose from, and you'll choose 3 courses from these options, which will run over semester 2. Yeah, so you can either choose to kind of develop skills that you already have done some studying in, or to gain new skills as well and knowledge. At this point, so I'll hand over to Emanuele again in a minute, but I'm just going to come back to the MRes program as well, because in January, that's when the MRes students start their projects, their independent research projects. So they can be either 2 3-month projects or 1 6-month projects. And I have to say, in the last few years, the 6-month project has been the main avenue that most students have taken. It's been very popular. So in January, well, in November, we release a list of projects that are being offered again across the college. So there's lots of different projects in lots of different areas. Students then choose their top 5, and we manage that process so that then you go and meet some of the kind of supervisors and come to an arrangement where you go into their lab and work for either 3 or 6 months. So the MSCs, as I said, will go into their option courses and then do the course that Emanuele runs in the end of semester 3, and then go into their research projects. So I'm going to hand back to Emanuele.
Back here. Yeah, so the course is Higher Skills for Biomedical Sciences, sorry. So this is a course that is pretty much, that aims pretty much to give you the skills to critically review scientific literature, so to properly read, understand, and criticize, if necessary, scientific literature. So we live in an age now where we have a lot of problems in the field with the use of artificial intelligence or other issues, let's say so, in scientific literature. So sometimes you cannot just believe everything you read, and you will need to be able to distinguish what is correct and what is not correct. So we will practice the skills, and then we will also look at how to actually write a new project based on what you read in literature. So do the next step and start to think about how to create new knowledge based on what is already known in literature. So you will need to design a new project and propose an experimental approach to test your research question. So back to you, Elaine.
Yeah, I think that kind of summarizes the programs overall, and I'm sure if you've got other questions, you can ask them as well, and we'll kind of elaborate any part of that as well.
Yeah, no, that was a really good overview there. In terms of where the classes are held, are they typically on main campus, or is it a bit of a mix?
So all of the first semesters on main campus, but then when it comes to the options, there are a couple that are either at the Glasgow campus or at the Queen Elizabeth Hospital, and the same with projects. So it just depends where those supervisors are based. So there may be some elements which are based away from the main campus, but the majority is on main campus.
Right. Quite a nice way to see the rest of Glasgow then.
Absolutely.
And I know it's a really difficult question to ask because it will vary depending on courses that students choose, but we're always asked, how much class time should a student expect each week?
Okay, so it is a full-time program, and what I would say is that's split really between the taught elements and student-directed learning. So it will depend on the course. So something like Higher Skills, which is lab-based, is quite intense in terms of how much time you spend on campus, because you might be on campus for 35 hours and the actual the lab-based weeks. But then other courses or other weeks, you'll have much less time on campus, but you will have an expectation where you should be working on your own in that time as well. Obviously, when you go into your research projects as well, the expectation would be it doesn't always work like this, but 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. Sometimes you have to be a little bit flexible in your time with research projects as well. Do you have anything to add to that, Emanuele?
I think you said everything. Yes, sounds fine. Yeah, especially the flexibility for the research project.
Yeah.
Perfect. And you mentioned for the MSc, the optional courses, when should a student expect to be choosing them? Is that as soon as they're in the door, or do they get a bit of time?
No, so normally students don't even enroll on those courses until later in semester one. So what happens is we have a kind of presentation day for options where all of the leads for those different courses come along, usually online these days, and give a synopsis of the course so that you can have a kind of informed decision as to which courses you want to take. And that usually takes place at the beginning of November. And then you'll be given a week or 2 weeks to make your decisions and then enroll on those courses.
Perfect. And then we've had a question, and I bear with me because someone's asked, is it possible to learn any and every biological lab technique in this course, even those included in biotechnology? Now that sounds like someone that's very keen.
Yes, absolutely. I think it would be very difficult given our time constraints. So this is a year course to introduce you to every single technique. What we try and do is to introduce you to the kind of the core techniques of molecular biology, so that then you can develop your skills when you go into a lab or later on in your careers, to actually use your knowledge to expand your kind of portfolio of techniques, if you like. I think anyone in research, none of us use all techniques or even have that knowledge of how to use all techniques. It's about reading the literature as well and understanding techniques from that point of view, and actually also being able to kind of use your knowledge to push your development forward as well.
And then, of course, if I can ask something, you will have the opportunity to choose your project at the end of the course. So depending on what you want to study, that you will need to apply different techniques. So you can go through that. We offer a wide range of possibilities, and some of them are based on biotechnology. I talk as a biotechnologist myself, so.
Yeah.
Perfect. And then someone's asked, do we get access to class materials before classes take place?
Yes, so always we have all resources and also usually lecture slides on our virtual learning environment. So that's the Moodle environment, which are always published prior to lectures. So you would have access to everything. Usually at the beginning of the course, you'll have access to everything within that course. We also have reading lists within the library as well, so you can access them very easily as well. And we actually, so for higher skills anyway, we have some apps which are available outside of the university as well, where you can access some of the information there as well. And I've got 2 links for that, so it might be worth, do you want me to put them in the chat, Naomi, and then people can see that?
Yeah, that would be super.
And access them if they want to do that now.
Right. And yeah, we'll make sure that those links are actually included when we send the recording out as well, so that you've got them, because you'll not get the chat box with you.
Okay.
Thanks, Elaine. And in terms, so you've actually touched a bit about the research project, but can you give us maybe some examples of things that students have done for their projects before? Sorry, that's putting you on the spot.
Okay, so I mean, as I said, our projects come from right across the college. So that can be in cancer sciences, biotechnology, molecular genetics. I'm trying to think of recent ones, cardiovascular studies, infection biology and immunity, parasitology, and we do even have a few neuroscience and well-being projects as well. You're asking me I don't know how useful it is to give actual examples, because they vary from year to year depending on what research labs are working on. What I would say is there's different types of projects as well. So there are wet lab projects, and that are major form of projects still at the moment. But we also, because there's a big increase in biological research in dry investigative projects, so bioinformatics based projects, we have quite a lot of bioinformatics type projects on offer, and also we do have some systematic reviews as well, especially for the second project. So that's the one where all the MSc students are doing them as well. And that's a really good way of researching into the literature as well in a very systematic way. We publish, so for the MRes students projects, the project list is usually published around November time. For the MScs and for the second 3-month projects, if the MRes are doing that, that's usually published around March, early March time, so that you've got plenty of time to kind of look through that and decide what you want to do as well. Yeah, does that answer the question, do you think, Naomi?
Yeah, no, I think it does. Yeah, there's a mix of things available, and you don't have to worry about that right now. Yeah, no, that's perfect. Someone's asked in the chat box, are lectures recorded? I suppose that might depend on where classes take place.
It does. So not all lectures are recorded, just because some rooms haven't got the capacity for that. Where possible, they are recorded and put up onto Moodle. Because of the years we spent in lockdown as well, we do have a number of kind of lectures that have basically the same information that have been pre-recorded that we can release as well, if students find that easier as well.
And in terms of anything that students can do to prepare before they start, we're always asked this, is there any recommended reading or anything that you would recommend they do?
There are some basic sort of molecular biology books, so things like Albert's Molecular Biology of the Cells, really good, From Genes to Genome. These are on our lists. What might be useful as well is if anyone's interested to send out the PIDs of 23, 24, so that people can get an idea of what the different courses are in there, so you can do some background reading. Obviously, as well, the molecular methods apps, that the links that I've sent out, that's really useful to go through as well if you want to brush up on your molecular biology background. Yeah, so just generally kind of making sure you've got a good basic understanding of molecular biology will set you up well for this course. So there is quite a lot of molecular biology and genetics as well, molecular genetics. Anything else you can suggest, Emanuele?
I think that's pretty much it. Yes, the basics in molecular biology will be the place to start, I think.
Perfect. And in terms of after graduation, what do you sort of hear that students go on to do?
Well, there's a variety, so there's a huge range of things that our students go into. I've got a little bit of data based on a proportion of those students, so we don't have a really comprehensive list at the moment, but a number of our students, so about 20 to 50%, go into PhDs, so go further ahead in their kind of research careers. Anecdotally, I would say that's slightly higher in the MRes student cohort than the MSc cohort, but there's not very much between it. We have a good number of students going to post within academic research, such as research scientists, assistants, technicians. We have quite a lot going to the life sciences industry, so as scientists, technical supervisors, project management, product management, environmental monitoring. There's a huge range of opportunities within there, even business development as well. We do have a small number of students going to clinical posts, so things like clinical and research and trials. Some go into medical lab, into positions as medical lab scientists in a private setting, and we do have a small number going into the NHS, but that tends to be later on in their careers, and there are specific requirements for that as well, which you would need on top of the master's degree as well. So that's kind of a kind of overview. So lots within very kind of biomedical based type careers, I would say, and of course we have some others that go and do things like work in banks or medical writing's another big one as well within the biomedical sciences.
The world is your oyster.
Absolutely.
Within our chat box, just related to careers, someone's asked, after the MRes Biomedical Science, am I eligible to work as a biomedical scientist? Is that one of those roles that would need further sort of training?
So we are accredited by the Royal Society of Biology, but not by the Institute of Biomedical Sciences, because they require very specific kind of techniques and kind of experience in the hospital lab to start with. We have had some students that have applied for accreditation in retrospect, but it very much depends on the accumulation of your undergraduate and your postgraduate experiences. So the onus would be on you to look at that. Even the accreditation doesn't allow you to enter the NHS labs as a biomedical scientist. You also need what's called an HCPC kind of qualification. So a lot of undergraduate courses within the UK on biomedical sciences offer that, but again that requires working in a hospital lab during your qualification as well, so that's not something we're set up for. We're more research based, I would say.
Hopefully that answers their question and gives them some more reading to sort of maybe go on and explore.
Yes.
I'm trying to think. I think that's all the questions on our chat here. There's a question in the chat box, but I feel like we covered that at the start, so I don't know if this person's joined later on. Just maybe you could give a little brief overview, just the main differences between the MSc and the MRes.
Absolutely, I think that would be useful. So the MRes and the MSc both have the same core components for taught courses in the first semester, but then the MRes has either 2 3-month projects as independent research projects, or 1 6-month project, whereas the MSc has another 60 credits of taught components, which are the options, and then the advanced studies in biomedical sciences, and then 3 months in an independent research project. What I would say is if you come in on the MSc, there is an opportunity to switch, or if you come in on the MRes, there's an opportunity to switch between the two programs around about November. Once you've had an opportunity, because a lot of students aren't aware of what an MRes particularly is before they come in to the courses. So we do give that opportunity, but it would be, it's competitive and it requires you to actually apply for that. And we do a little interview for that as well. So yeah, hopefully that gives you a potted idea of the difference between the two.
Perfect. And then someone said, I'm interested in the Introduction to Medical Communications optional course on the MSc Biomedical Sciences programme. Would you say this would be valuable for a career in medical communications? Absolutely.
I think it'd be great, yes. So that's run by someone who was in medical communication, actually, so they should be able to give you some good ideas of what else you can do to kind of increase your chances of getting a job in that sort of area as well. And a lot of our course actually is about communicating science anyway. So we have a lot of emphasis on kind of presenting your science in different ways to different audiences. So through the presentation skills, but also obviously within higher skills, we have writing lab reports to kind of the scientific community, and then in molecular genetics of disease you have posters and you have presentations again, and within that we'll look at kind of how you present to a lay audience or a scientific audience, or different levels as well.
Perfect. And then someone's asked, can you elaborate about practical sessions in the MRes?
Practical sessions in the MRes, so that's the projects, I'm presuming. So the only practical course we have within the biomedical sciences is the higher skills. And I think I've run through most of the techniques that we use within that. When you come to do within MRes specifically, obviously a lot of your lab work will be done within your independent research project, and that will depend on what lab you go into. So when you get your list of projects available, it will tell you the sorts of techniques that you would be using within that as well, so that you can kind of match it to what you want to develop your skills in as well. I hope that
Perfect.
answers the question.
Yeah, and I think it's maybe that some people have joined a bit later, that they can catch up. And someone's asked, and you've kind of touched on it there actually about assessments, but is there any exams in some of the courses?
Okay, so we don't have exams within the exam diet, so a traditional exam. We do have some tests which are done under examination conditions, but they tend to be a small part of the overall assessment for any one course. So we have the MGD, so the molecular genetics of disease, sorry, that's one of our core courses. They do have a paper analysis exam, which you will be given the paper 7 days before, and then you'll be asked some questions. And then at the moment, how it's online and how it works at the moment is you get 24 hours to complete that paper. In higher skills, we also have a class test, which is done under examination conditions, and that is actually changing. So I'm not going to say too much about that because we're not sure how that will go ahead for next year, but it will be under examination conditions. Everything else is kind of in-course assessment. So you will have some presentations as well, and you'll have vivas, which are oral examinations within the program. You'll also have kind of essays and lab reports and posters to do as summative assessments. So we try and use a huge range of different kind of assessment methods so that we are assessing your skills, but over a wide range of different ways of assessing them so that everyone has an opportunity to show what they're best at as well. Yeah, so I think that about covers it, does Emanuele?
Yeah, I don't know if you mentioned the reflective writing and the critical review. That's the other things.
Yeah, and another one is actually, so Emanuele was just saying we have an assessment which asks you to reflect on your skills and development in this case in terms of presentation skills, but it's a really important skill in terms of your development overall. And the other thing is some of the optional courses will be group assessments as well.
Perfect, and that answered nicely the last question that came through there. I can't believe that's 1:30 already. I feel like it blinked and the clock moved. So thanks very much for taking the time out of your day to come and join us and answer all those questions. And thanks very much to those who have registered to attend. If there's anything that we didn't get around to answering, please do get in touch with the programme administrators. You can find those contact details on the programme web pages, and the administration teams are brilliant. Like I said, we've got the online postgraduate event coming up on the 7th of May, and that'd be great if you've got any questions about, there was one in there about accommodation and things, so definitely check that out, and those sessions should be recorded as well, actually, if you can't attend live. So thanks very much, everybody, and we hope to see you all in September. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.